Welcome the spicy lady. Some of the sharpest minds are quiet because they are busy seeing what everyone else misses. Sigma females are often misunderstood because their brilliance does not announce itself with loud words or visible gestures. They process the world differently. While others focus on appearances, social games, or who gets noticed, she observes patterns, motives, and truths that are invisible to most people. This makes her thoughtful, analytical, and sometimes unpredictable to those who are used to surface-level thinking. Her intelligence is active behind the scenes. She notices the small shifts in behavior that hint at larger truths. She understands people, systems, and situations on levels most overlook. This ability allows her to anticipate outcomes, see opportunities where others see obstacles, and protect herself emotionally in ways many people never consider. Yeah, because she does not display her insight for approval, it can go unrecognized or even be underestimated. She also carries depth that is rarely shared, including hidden skills, ideas, and emotional experiences. She chooses carefully when to reveal these because premature exposure often attracts misunderstanding or unnecessary criticism. That discretion adds to her mysterious aura, making her seem distant or difficult, when in reality she is simply preserving her energy for what truly matters. In this video, we will explore why Sigma females are often admired, feared, and misunderstood at the same time. By the end, you will understand the hidden patterns behind their brilliance, the quiet power they carry, and why their way of thinking challenges the world to catch up. Stay with me until the end because the truths about these remarkable women go far deeper than most people ever realize. Let's get started. Spicy lady. Number 1, they are dangerous to false systems. Point 1 reason Sigma females are often misunderstood is because they quietly disturb systems that survive on pretense. They do not always challenge things with noise or public confrontation, but their mind naturally asks a simple question many people avoid asking. Does this actually make sense? That question alone can unsettle people who are comfortable with rules that have never been examined. A false system can exist anywhere. It can be in a workplace where the least competent person has the most influence because they know how to impress the right people. It can be inside a family where one person is treated as unquestionable even when their decisions repeatedly create harm. It can even exist in friendships where honesty is expected only when it is convenient. But truth becomes uncomfortable the moment it exposes inconsistency. A Sigma female notices these patterns early. She sees when respect is demanded but not earned. She sees when confidence is only a cover for insecurity. She sees when someone uses titles, age, popularity, or emotional pressure to avoid accountability. What makes her different is that she often refuses to pretend not to notice. For example, in a meeting, everyone may agree with an idea simply because it comes from someone senior. She may calmly ask one question that changes the room. If this failed last time, what exactly are we changing now? That question is not rebellion. It is clarity. But in environments where people are rewarded for agreement, clarity can look threatening. This is why some people describe her as difficult when she is simply unwilling to participate in empty rituals. She does not automatically trust authority just because authority is present. She watches actions before she respects words. What makes this powerful is that she often does not expose false systems aggressively. Sometimes her silence alone reveals them. When she refuses to flatter someone who expects admiration without substance, that absence becomes noticeable. When she does not join gossip, manipulation loses energy. When she stays calm in situations designed to pressure her, people begin to realize she cannot be easily controlled. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That is because truth has weight even when spoken softly, and people who benefit from false systems often feel most uncomfortable around those who cannot be trained to pretend. Number 2. They often carry untold versions of themselves. Point 1 of the most fascinating things about Sigma females is that people often know only a small portion of who they really are. What the world sees is usually the edited version, the part that feels safe enough to share, while many deeper parts remain carefully protected. This is not because they enjoy being secretive. It is often because experience has taught them that not everything valuable should be placed in careless hands. Many Sigma females carry entire worlds inside them that rarely become public. A woman may be known at work as calm, practical, and disciplined, Yet very few people know she writes brilliant ideas late at night, studies subjects nobody expects, or carries questions about life that she rarely speaks about. Another may seem emotionally steady in every situation, while quietly carrying old disappointments that taught her how selective trust must be. This hidden depth usually develops because exposure has often come with risk. When someone has shared an idea too early and watched it dismissed, they learn silence. When they have shown vulnerability and later seen it misunderstood, they learn caution. When they have revealed ambition and felt unnecessary resistance, they learn that not every room deserves full access to who they are. For example, a Sigma female may sit through a conversation where everyone assumes she is quiet because she has little to add, while in reality she has already understood the subject, noticed what is missing, and chosen not to waste energy proving it. Another example is when people assume her calmness means life has always been easy, not realizing that her calmness may be the result of surviving situations that forced her to become internally strong. This is why people often feel surprised when they eventually discover another side of her. The woman who rarely speaks about herself may suddenly reveal deep knowledge, unusual skill, or emotional wisdom that completely changes how others see her. The surprise happens because most people confuse privacy with emptiness, when in truth privacy often protects depth, not usually the loudest person in the room. Yet presence is difficult to ignore. That quiet presence often comes from everything she carries without announcing it. Some of her most important chapters remain untold, not because they are small, but because she understands that not every listener has earned the right to hear them. Number 3, their mind is usually working while others are performing. Point 1 reason Sigma females are often misunderstood is that while many people are busy managing appearances, their minds are usually occupied with something deeper. They are often observing how things actually work beneath the surface. While others focus on being noticed, they are quietly asking why a situation feels off, why a conversation suddenly changed direction, or why certain people behave differently depending on who is present. A Sigma female often notices the hidden structure of everyday life. She pays attention to patterns most people dismiss because they seem small. She notices who speaks confidently but avoids responsibility. She notices how trust changes when pressure enters a room. She notices how quickly loyalty disappears when people fear losing advantage. What looks like ordinary silence from her side is often active thinking. For example, in a group discussion, someone may be speaking with great confidence and everyone appears impressed, while others focus on delivery. She is paying attention to whether the argument actually makes sense, whether facts are missing, and whether confidence is covering uncertainty. By the time the conversation ends, she has often understood more than she says aloud. This also happens in relationships. While many people focus only on words, she watches consistency. If someone promises care but only appears when convenient, she notices the pattern. If someone apologizes often but never changes behavior, she stores that information quietly. Her decisions are rarely based one moment. They are often based on repeated evidence collected over time. What makes this unusual is that she often studies systems without announcing that she is doing it. She watches how influence works in workplaces, how family roles shape behavior, and why certain people repeat the same mistakes even after painful lessons. She understands that many problems are not random. They are usually built from habits, fear, ego, and unspoken motives. For instance, when a project fails, others may blame one event. She often sees the deeper cause: poor listening, weak planning, and people avoiding difficult truths until it became too late. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence often comes from mental depth. People may not immediately realize she is studying everything, but over time they notice that her conclusions are often accurate, because while others were performing, her mind was working quietly in the background. Number 4, they think in structures others cannot see. Point 1 reason Sigma personality is often seem different is that they rarely stop at what is visible. While most people respond to what just happened, a Sigma female often asks what led to it in the first place. Her attention naturally moves beneath the surface toward the hidden structure that produced the moment everyone else is reacting to. This is why her silence is often misunderstood. People may think she is slow to respond, when in reality her mind is tracing connections that others have not even noticed. For many people, a conversation is simply about words. For her, it is also about timing, tone, hesitation, what was avoided, and what suddenly changed. If someone speaks kindly but only after tension appears, she notices that shift. If a person becomes warm only when they need something, she remembers that too. She is often studying the invisible framework around behavior, not just the behavior itself. For example, imagine a family disagreement where everyone focuses on one harsh sentence someone said at dinner. Most people may argue only about that sentence. A Sigma female may quietly notice that the tension actually began long before dinner, perhaps from repeated disrespect, unresolved resentment, or one person always controlling the emotional climate of the room, while others are reacting to one event. She is seeing the chain behind it. This is also why her responses can appear delayed. She does not always answer immediately because she is not reacting to only one layer. She is examining intention, history, and possible outcomes at the same time. By the time she speaks, her words often sound unusually precise because she has already removed what is unnecessary. In friendships or relationships, this becomes even clearer. She may notice that trust is weakening before anyone says it aloud. She sees patterns such as someone becoming less available only when accountability appears, or affection increasing only when distance is felt. What others call instinct is often her ability to read repeated emotional structure, not usually the loudest person in the room. Yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence often comes from depth of perception. She is not only hearing what people say, she is often reading what shaped it, what hides behind it, and what it may become later. That is why her conclusions sometimes surprise people. She arrived there by following layers most never thought to examine. Number 5. She often hides her most brilliant ideas until they are fully formed. One thing many people misunderstand about a Sigma female is that silence does not mean absence of ideas. In many cases, some of her best thoughts are still developing long before anyone around her knows they exist. She may already be building something in her mind, testing it from different angles, questioning it, refining it, and waiting until it reaches a level that feels complete before she allows it into the open. This is rarely about fear or insecurity. It is often about understanding how quickly unfinished ideas can be damaged when exposed too early. Some people do not know how to handle something that is still growing. Instead of helping it develop, they rush to judge it before they understand where it is going. A Sigma female often learns this through experience. She may have once shared a thought too early only to watch people dismiss it because they could not yet see what she was building. For example, she may have a strong solution to a problem at work, but instead of speaking the moment the idea appears, she keeps thinking. She asks herself whether it will still make sense under pressure, whether it solves the deeper issue, and what weaknesses others may point out. While people assume she has little to say, she is often strengthening the idea quietly. Then, when she finally speaks, the suggestion arrives clear, practical, and difficult to ignore because she has already thought through the questions others are just beginning to ask. The same happens in personal growth. A Sigma female may decide to change direction in life, learn a new skill, or build something important without announcing it. She understands that early attention can bring unnecessary opinions from people who do not yet understand the vision. Instead of explaining every step, she allows progress to speak later. This is why some people are surprised when they suddenly discover what she has been working on. What looked like ordinary silence may have contained months of careful thought, planning, and internal discipline. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. Part of that presence comes from the fact that when she finally reveals an idea, it often carries unusual depth because it has already survived private testing before public conversation ever begins. Unfinished brilliance often needs protection before it needs applause. She understands that some ideas grow stronger in quiet places away from quick opinions, until they become solid enough to stand on their own. Number 6, she is often called difficult when she simply refuses psychological dependence. A Sigma female is often called difficult, but many times the word difficult is simply used by people who are uncomfortable when they cannot control how close someone stays. She may care deeply, show loyalty, and still protect parts of herself that she does not hand over easily. For some people that feels confusing because they have learned to measure love by constant access, immediate response, or emotional availability on demand. She does not think that way. To her, loyalty is not proven by always being reachable, always explaining every feeling, or always making herself emotionally available at every moment. She understands that genuine connection can exist without constant presence. She can love people sincerely and still need space to think, recover, and return to herself without guilt. This is where misunderstanding often begins. Someone may assume that if she needs time alone, she is becoming distant. If she does not immediately explain every emotion, they may think she is hiding something. If she refuses to let another person become the center of her emotional balance, they may call her cold. But what they often fail to understand is that she has simply learned the difference between connection and dependence. For example, in a relationship, someone may expect daily reassurance as proof that everything is fine. A Sigma female may care very much, yet not believe love should constantly require proof through repeated emotional performance. She would rather show consistency through honesty, respect, and reliability than through endless emotional repetition. The same happens in friendships. A friend may feel offended because she does not share every private thought, while she simply believes that privacy is part of emotional maturity. She knows that closeness does not require total exposure. What makes this wisdom powerful is that she understands how unhealthy dependence can quietly damage relationships. When one person begins to rely on another person for identity, peace, or self-worth, love slowly becomes pressure. She refuses to build relationships where affection becomes emotional obligation. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence often comes from inner stability. She does not confuse access with love because she knows someone can be deeply loyal without surrendering every private corner of the mind. In truth, many people call her difficult because she remains emotionally present without becoming emotionally possessed. And that kind of balance is rare enough to be misunderstood before it is respected. Number 7, people call her mysterious when they simply have not earned access. One of the most common labels placed on a Sigma female is that she is mysterious. People often say it when they notice that she does not reveal herself easily, does not explain every thought, and does not quickly open every emotional door. But what many call mystery is often something far simpler and far more mature. Privacy. A Sigma female usually understands that not every part of her life needs to be available to everyone who is curious. She may enjoy conversation, show kindness, and still keep certain thoughts, plans, memories, and emotions protected. This is not an attempt to appear complex. It is often the result of learning that access should mean something. Many people live in a world where constant sharing has become normal. People explain themselves quickly, speak openly before trust is built, and sometimes reveal parts of themselves to people who have not shown care, consistency, or depth. A Sigma female often moves differently. She watches first. She listens. She notices how people handle other people's stories before offering her own. For example, someone may ask her personal questions very early and feel surprised when her answers remain simple. They may assume she is hiding something dramatic when in reality, she just does not believe every conversation deserves full emotional detail. Another person may know her for months and suddenly discover she has a skill, a past experience, or a strong opinion they never expected simply because she only speaks when the moment feels meaningful. This is why some people call her hard to read. They expect easy access because they are used to people presenting themselves quickly, but she often believes that understanding someone should take time. Trust to her is not built through speed. It is built through repeated evidence. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence often creates curiosity because people sense there is more beneath the surface, but they cannot immediately reach it. What many fail to realize is that privacy is not distance. It is discernment. She may care deeply and still choose carefully what belongs in public and what remains personal. Mystery is often just privacy viewed from outside. When someone has not earned deeper access, ordinary boundaries can look unusual. But to her, protecting depth is not secrecy. It is wisdom learned from understanding that not every listener knows how to carry what is real. Number 8. She often carries hidden exhaustion from constantly translating herself. Point 1 of the hidden struggles of a Sigma female is the mental fatigue that comes from constantly translating herself. Her mind often works differently from the people around her. She notices patterns, connections, and ideas that others rarely see, and she understands things several steps ahead of what is immediately visible. While this is a gift, it also comes with a hidden cost in order to communicate effectively, she often has to reshape her thoughts so others can follow them. This is not about simplifying her intelligence, but about carefully packaging ideas in a way that will be understood without distortion. Every conversation can become a kind of performance, not to impress, but to ensure her insight lands as intended. Over time, this repeated effort of making complex thoughts digestible becomes exhausting. For example, in a work setting, she may see a flaw in a project plan that nobody else has noticed. She could speak in technical, precise terms that are immediately correct, but most people would misunderstand .so instead. She finds examples, stories, or analogies to guide others to the same conclusion. Each translation takes energy, and by the end of the day, even small interactions may feel draining. This exhaustion also exists in personal relationships. When friends or partners do not think the way she does, she must carefully choose how to explain her reasoning, feelings, or decisions. Misinterpretation can lead to conflict, so she often anticipates reactions, rephrases her points, and times her delivery. This invisible labor adds up, leaving her mentally tired, even if outwardly calm. Yet despite this exhaustion, she rarely complains. Many people see only her composed exterior, not realizing the effort beneath it. Her brilliance often comes at the cost of constant mental work that few recognize. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence carries a subtle intensity born from a mind always processing, always translating, and always bridging the gap between her understanding of the world and the comprehension of others. What looks like quiet confidence often hides layers of invisible effort, patience, and hidden mental toil. Number 9, she is often misunderstood because she refuses social exaggeration. One of the reasons Sigma females are often misunderstood is because they rarely soften their truths to make others feel comfortable. Most people have learned to cushion reality with polite phrases, jokes, or exaggeration to smooth interactions and avoid conflict. She does not do that. She speaks plainly, directly, and honestly, and that can feel sharp to those who are used to constant sugarcoating. Her honesty is not meant to hurt. It is simply a reflection of how she processes the world. She values clarity over comfort, substance over appearances, and truth over convenience. While others may spend energy dressing up messages so they will be accepted, she focuses on the content itself. That difference often makes people feel unsettled, intimidated, or even defensive because they are not used to encountering someone who prioritizes authenticity over etiquette. For example, in a workplace, a colleague may give a vague explanation for why a project failed. Many people would nod politely, offer encouragement, or avoid pressing too hard. She might calmly point out the exact reason the failure occurred, including patterns of mistakes, lack of follow-through, or miscommunication. Some may perceive this as blunt or harsh, but in reality, she is cutting through noise to address the real issue. The same happens in personal relationships, that if someone avoids responsibility, exaggerates events, or pretends to be something they are not, she sees it. Instead of conforming to the lie or pretending it is acceptable, she may respond with straightforward honesty, highlighting what is real. To many, this can feel uncomfortable, but to her, it is simply necessary. Not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. That presence often comes from the clarity of her mind and the directness of her words. People may feel unsettled at first, but over time, they begin to respect someone who consistently values truth over social comfort. Her refusal to decorate reality is not rebellion. It is wisdom. It is the rare ability to see and communicate what others often ignore, sugarcoat, or avoid entirely. Number 10, her intelligence often appears invisible because she does not advertise it. One of the most fascinating aspects of a Sigma female is that her intelligence often goes unnoticed, not because it is absent, but because she rarely displays it for the sake of recognition. Many people equate confidence with noise, visibility, or constant demonstration. She does not. Her intelligence is active, quiet, and deliberate. She does not need applause or validation to measure her own understanding. Her mind is constantly analyzing, connecting dots that others miss, and predicting outcomes that most would overlook. She notices patterns in behavior, flaws in plans, and subtleties in conversation that reveal hidden motives. Yet, she rarely feels the need to broadcast these observations. She understands that speaking out of turn or explaining what everyone cannot yet grasp often does more harm than good. Instead, she processes quietly, allowing insight to accumulate until it can be applied effectively or shared when truly meaningful. For example, in a group discussion, someone might dominate the conversation with confidence and charm, while she listens, absorbs, and notices gaps in logic that nobody else is seeing. When she does speak, her words are precise, impactful, and impossible to ignore. Not because they are loud, but because they carry depth that others often cannot reach without. In her personal life, she may read situations and people in ways that feel uncanny to those around her. She might notice emotional cues, anticipate reactions, or solve problems before anyone realizes there is an issue. Her intelligence is active behind the scenes, not performed on stage, not usually the loudest person in the room, yet presence is difficult to ignore. What makes her remarkable is that her brilliance does not rely on being seen, that IT operates quietly, efficiently, and often invisibly. She measures outcomes by results and understanding, not by applause or acknowledgement. Her intelligence is a force that exists beyond social expectation, and those who truly notice it often realize it is far deeper than anything immediately visible. In final words, some people are quiet because they have learned that the loudest voice does not always carry the clearest truth. Sigma females often leave people confused because they operate on levels most do not notice. Their brilliance is subtle, layered, and deeply structured, yet it does not announce itself. They carry knowledge, insight, and emotional awareness that is rarely visible, and they carefully decide when, where, and with whom to reveal it. This deliberate approach often makes them seem mysterious, difficult, or even intimidating, but it is simply the natural outcome of minds that think differently. They notice patterns that others miss, question systems most accept without thought, and guard parts of themselves that have learned too well that not everyone deserves access. Their intelligence, patience, and honesty often arrive without decoration, leaving some people uncomfortable because they are not used to encountering truth without compromise. While others may measure influence through visibility, she measures it through understanding, clarity, and the depth of her own insight. The paradox lies in how brilliance and solitude coexist. Her strength is often hidden until it becomes undeniable. Her presence may be quiet, but it carries weight because it is informed, intentional, and resistant to manipulation. People may misinterpret her silence, her calm, and her private world as absence or indifference, when in reality she is observing, learning, and processing in ways that most cannot perceive. To understand a Sigma female is to respect that intelligence does not always need an audience. Her depth may not be obvious, but it is profound. Those who take the time to notice often discover that what seemed simple or distant is actually extraordinary. She is brilliant, independent, and misunderstood. Not because she chooses to be, but because the world is not always ready for minds like hers. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.